Bartholomew Town is brought to you in part by the University of Rhode Island Online, Navigant Credit Union, the Audubon Society of Rhode Island, Newport Film, and Half Street Group.
Bartholomew Town.
All right, so this weekend is going to be a big one here in Rhode Island. Look, no matter where you stand on public financing of stadium, look, Tidewater Landing, it's happening. It's happening this Saturday as the Rhode Island FC will play their first home game in the brand new taxpayer-funded stadium, Centerville Bank Stadium, located in Pawtucket. And this obviously has been a long journey for a lot of people here in this state. And with that has come an effort to really build out enthusiasm around the team itself and really the game of soccer, which is something that didn't need a tremendous amount of investment in. This is already a large market for soccer, top 10 on a national basis. And of course, there's a huge youth and quite frankly, even adult program atmosphere here in Rhode Island. But, you know, something that you might not be thinking about when it comes to Tidewater and really when it comes to our entire ecosystem athletically and in general here in Rhode Island is rugby. And yeah, there's some big things happening in rugby on a national scale and on a local scale, and Tidewater is going to play a central role in that. Jeff Cares joins us. Jeff, I guess the first thing to do, give us your introduction and welcome aboard the podcast.
Hey, good morning. I am Executive Director of Rugby Rhode Island, which is a USA Rugby affiliate for the state, and I run high school and younger rugby programs throughout the state. My job is to grow the sport, which is now being played at the high school level, middle school level, and below. Yes,
and we're going to get to that in just a second because it's a really fascinating case study on, it's not the Rhode Island Interscholastic League, the governing body of most high school sports here in the state, nor the Principals Committee on Athletics, which governs middle school. It's sort of in its own club atmosphere. It reminds me of the early days of lacrosse or even golf here in Rhode Island. We'll get to that in just a second and everything surrounding that. But let's start right out of the gate. What would you say the state of rugby is in the state of Rhode Island, just in terms of an enthusiasm, in terms of a culture? Where does it stand right now?
Well, you know, it goes from the pro level all the way down to the 7-year-old kid level. And so it's really had an explosion since Major League Rugby started a few years ago. You know, New England is known as, and Boston's known as Title City. Most people don't know that the last two national championships for professional rugby were won by the New England Free Jacks, who play I would rather than play in Providence than where they play in Quincy right now, because I think the stadium is much, much better for rugby because it was built for soccer and we use the same size field. But at the top level, everybody's fired up about the Free Jacks. And they draw in from all over New England, and we go up there every weekend that they're playing. They have kids programs and all that kind of stuff. So it really is from the pro level all the way down to the 7th grade level. When you go to a Free Jacks match, they start playing with the young kids playing flag, and then the middle school kids will play, then the high school kids will play, then the college kids will play, then the adult clubs will play, and then the pros will play. And so in each state in New England, we have all those levels at that level. So at the adult level, we have Providence Rugby, and we have Newport Rugby, and they just played the Rhode Island Cup was won by Newport this year. It's a match they play every year. It used to be the winning team got a jar of Buddy Cianci's marinara sauce.
Yeah, the Mayor's Own.
The Mayor's Own. But now they just get bragging rights. And then it goes down to the collegiate level. We have every college in Rhode Island is playing rugby. Some of them are nationally ranked for their division, like Salve and Roger Williams and Bryant at different times. And Brown, of course, Division I, national champions in 7s and 15s. So it's a tremendous program that recruits from all over the world to have world-class collegiate rugby players playing here in Providence. And now at the high school level, what's frustrating is that Massachusetts and Connecticut have very, very well-developed high school rugby programs. Bishop Hendricken was the only team for about 25 years. So we started to build the high school league. Eventually, we want to be Rhode Island Interscholastic League, but you have to have a league first before you can bring it to them and have them sanction it. We are sanctioned under the U.S. Olympic Committee now, so it's not just a casual club. These kids are really, we say we're going to win the World Cup, which is coming to the U.S. in 33 for men and 35 for women. We're going to win the World Cup from the kid up. So we have the high school now going, and we have 4 middle school and below teams in the state.
Yeah, and that's so on that youth level. Again, I want to touch on that in more detail coming up in just a moment. And it is critical to build any kind of enthusiasm and infrastructure. Obviously, that's how soccer, really since the 1970s in this country, has been built, and certainly what has been effective in building enthusiasm for a sport that, quite frankly, here in the United States, although Major League Soccer is interesting, as is the USL, which is the league that'll the FCRI or RIFC. I'm gonna have to get those letters straight here before somebody comes and treats me as the victim of a hooligan. But look, I mean, building the youth culture up is what has created enthusiasm as those youth turn into middle-aged folks, which I know something about, and definitely is, that's what's going to drive popularity in a sport that is, it's not, the U.S. is not the world headquarters for soccer nor rugby, but the enthusiasm built at the youth level up is what spreads out. Similar, again, I just said it, but similar to lacrosse in terms of developing a sport. So there's going to be a national championship game played at Tidewater. Talk about that. I mean, what league is that? What's the national championship game? There's a lot of buzz about this. I don't think most people know anything about it.
Well, and part of that is because the the league is relatively new, and it had some fits and starts when it first started. Some teams folded, some open, but now it's very stable.
And what league is that?
It's called Major League Rugby.
It's called Major League Rugby. Got it.
And it is professional. Mm-hmm. And so they are players from all over the world are coming here to play in the U.S. Each team is mandated to have a certain number of American-born players. So there are on the Free Jacks, we have Kyle Sakara, who's a player who went to Bishop Hendricken, and he played at national champion team in college, and now he's playing at the pro level. And they also have a kid from the North Shore playing. And so it is a league that is both designed to be a professional sports league, but also has part of its mission to grow the sport. Because if the league's going to survive, it has to have fans. And rugby is a weird kind of sport if you're seeing it the first time. People look at it and they're wondering, it's almost like Quidditch. It has these weird words and these weird rules. But after you learn it and after you understand how close it is to football and how they, one is derivative of the other, you understand kind of what's going on. So they have this league, and it is all the major cities. So there's Chicago Hounds, there's the Seattle Seawolves, and so it's a national major league, and actually it's international because there's a Toronto team. And so it plays from about mid-March until the end of June when they have the Major League Shield, it's called. It is actually a big shield that weighs about 100 pounds that they carry around after they win. Nice.
And that's coming up on Saturday, June 28th, again, right here in Rhode Island.
You betcha.
At Centerville Bank Stadium, better known to the layperson as Tidewater Stadium, better known to the skeptic as the taxpayer-funded stadium in Pawtucket that we had to build to save Pawtucket after the Paw Sox left. But we'll get into that on another occasion as well. There's also the Boston Banshees, women's rugby. Let's talk about that, and I want to ask you a couple of questions about women's rugby that kind of trickles into our conversation at the youth level.
So the Banshees are brand new this year, and I tell you, what's really interesting about women's rugby, and it really builds enthusiasm when I tell new girls in high school about it, is that there are no separate rules for rugby for girls and boys. There's no separate ball. There's no separate equipment. Everything is exactly the same. They're playing exactly the same game that the boys are playing. And so they have it at the adult level. They have it in high school. They have it in college. Now they have it professionally, and this league has just started. I think there are 8 teams, but the home of the Banshees is right there in at the stadium at the Tidewater Stadium. That's
amazing. So rugby is happening. It's definitely another piece of the puzzle when it comes to Tidewater. I mean, look, there's a lot of questions about this on a practical level when you think about, minor league soccer, which it's significant, and it will develop into something even more of a community level engagement piece, a driver of not only economic development, but hopefully happiness. And rugby can fill that piece as well. But as you mentioned, really building from the youth level up, that's how you develop a sport. That's how you develop really any type of interest, as you plant it early and you grow it early. And so to that point, you'd mentioned the Rhode Island high school non-interscholastic league. You want to call it club, you want to call it whatever. But let's take a second, since we just mentioned the Banshees, to talk about Rhode Island youth rugby on the women's side. And, it's a statistic that I haven't necessarily been able to true this out, but I heard it from somebody that you and I both know who is involved in rugby. And I think it at least makes sense that it could be true. And that's, there are more rugby college scholarships for women than there are women playing rugby. And now there's conversation in the Rhode Island Interscholastic League about starting women's or girls flag football, where there'd be 0 college scholarships. How important is it to develop women's rugby and girls rugby in tandem with everything that we're seeing right now with the club organization, really 4 teams at the high school level here in the state?
So, I don't know what the impetus is to get the flag football event initiative started, but it doesn't have an end. One of the things that is wonderful about, it does have an end. It stops at high school. Girls are not going to continue to play it. They may be better NFL fans, I guess, and that's maybe why it's supported by the NFL. Rugby is a game, and there are so few games that you can pick up when you're in high school. And rugby is a game you can play for the rest of your life. I am 62 now, and I am still a rugby player. Mm-hmm. And so for women in particular, and you're exactly right, the statistic is right. There are more NCAA scholarships than there are girls playing high school rugby. I had a mom from Eastern Connecticut call me and ask me if I could teach her daughter rugby because she had a scholarship to go to Norwich for rugby.
Wow.
And she had never played before. She was an athlete who got recruited for another sport, and then that opportunity went away, and they said, well, we can get you a rugby scholarship. Would you like to play rugby? So they are out there. And I can tell you the enthusiasm for women's rugby is off the chart, particularly for girls rugby. And I have so much support from the female players. Both referees at this last weekend's rugby tournament for high school were women.
Nice.
And so they are involved in, and the boys see the women running practice. The boys see the women running the games. Mm-hmm. So men and the teams practice, boys and girls together. So there's a lot of unity there. It's not a secondary sport. It's and actually we had 3 minor injuries this weekend, all because some players got over aggressive, and they were all girls who had those minor injuries before being over aggressive. So it was, and the punchline was one guy kind of got a little bit of a shiner. It just happened to be given to him by his date to the prom.
Nice. That's how it ought to be right there if it's going to happen on the ground. It's interesting. And my experience, Jeff, is soccer. Was not a very good player, but I did play for most of my youth life, including in high school. But I became a referee myself, and that was really my pathway. I ended up refereeing in the USL, which is the league that's going to be playing at Tidewater in soccer. And rugby always felt like a companion to soccer, sharing fields, sharing facilities. Yep. And it was interesting to see. You can always tell the health of a sport in terms of its expansion and in terms of its depth by the amount of referees and the quality of the referees that you have there. What would you say the state of refereeing is right now when it comes to rugby? And to that end, when you're talking about the youth level, you need not only referees, you need coaches, and you need athletic trainers, and you need those kind of weird specialists that come in, maybe you go to a summer camp, or somebody who played professionally or in college that's not actually a full-time coach, but is just sort of around. You need characters. Yep. What's the state of it on a human level in terms of the resources and the people power?
Well, we're only about 4 or 5 years old, so we're still building, so we can always use more volunteers. What's really good is that USA Rugby is very generous about sending certification programs to the state. So every year we have a coaching certification, and we have a referee certification. One of the things I'm trying to do is get more high school kids certified in refereeing, because they can referee the little kids in middle school, and they can also earn a little bit of extra money by the time they're making maybe the college age to referee high school games and those types of things. We do need more referees. That's always one of the challenges with a sport like rugby, is that people get into it as players and then they may drift away, and it's we're trying to get them back in and show them there's a pathway to help. Even if you're not playing anymore, even if you have a full family, or you're eventually going to be a rugby dad or a rugby mom and want your kid to play high school or middle school rugby, so you might as well get involved now, because you're going to get involved later, because we're going to be here, and the kids love it. And it would be great if we could get more adults here to support them, to make sure that we have the infrastructure behind it. So if anybody's interested, they can go to our website, rugbyrhodeisland.org, and there's a place to sign up if you have interest to be a referee, be a sideline parent, be a coach, be an assistant coach, or even if you just want to start a high school program at your high school, if you're a high school kid or if you're a high school mom or dad.
And it's interesting because, like you said, you can make, I'm not going to say you're going to get rich off of it, but for a kid who wants to make a couple extra dollars and also exercise and be around something that they love on a community level, on an activity level, I can't think of a better job than refereeing, and I'm extremely grateful for it. So even just on that conversation alone, there's something really important there. Last couple of minutes here, Jeff, thanks so much for your time. We're going to do some more in-depth profiling of the expanding and initial phase here of youth rugby at the high school level. Right now, you've got 4 Rhode Island teams. They're kind of cluster teams with, as I understand it anyway, it's not like you've got South Kingstown versus North Kingstown, in a division or anything like that when you have 4 teams. What are the 4 teams, and what can you tell us about what you see as a pathway to interscholastic league affiliation in the future?
So there are a bunch of different models for doing this. Massachusetts is all MIAA, and they have nationally ranked teams. Connecticut is Connecticut Club, but they're affiliated with the Connecticut School Athletic Association, and they have national ranked teams. So there are a couple different models we can follow. Right now, we're working on getting a successful high school season going, and the 4 teams we have are Exeter West Greenwich and the Green School, which is a private school down in West Greenwich. We've got Providence, which is part classical and part central. Mm-hmm. And we've got Foster Gloucester, which are largely Ponegannset students. We expect that each of those now clubs will be officially part of the high schools as we go forward. And really what we're doing is building from the cluster up. So, Exeter and West Greenwich, Exeter and the Exeter, West Greenwich and the Green School are going to get together and play 15 aside, which is right now we're playing 7 aside. So they're going to combine for the bigger fixtures. And right now we also have Bishop Hendricken and Chesterton Academy, which is a new Catholic school in Warwick, who have combined together. So we really have 5 teams playing 7 aside. Those are going to grow by the end of the season to 4 teams playing 15 aside. And for each of those sides, except for, of course, Hendricken, we've got a girls' side that'll continue to play 7s.
It's a beautiful sport. I had the chance to go watch when I was a student at URI. I had a chance to really get an introduction to it. At that point, watching the club team there, had a friend who played, and it's a special game. Over the years, again, in my journey in soccer, there was a lot of overlap, and I got to watch it. It's exciting. There's a spiritual piece to it. If you watch teams from New Zealand, for example, I mean, what is it, the All Blacks? Is that the
Yep.
What is that dance that they do at the beginning?
It's called the haka.
The haka.
It's their war dance. Yeah.
It's
actually
amazing.
all the Polynesian teams have a haka, and they're all different, and they actually compete to see who can do a better haka just before they compete to see who can play a meaner game.
Hey, rugby is something that is here, and it's a piece of the conversation in Rhode Island, and most people aren't. In fact, I don't know anybody who's really talking about it. I think that hopefully this will help that cause, but outside of the rugby community, this is something that people should be paying attention to because, again, on a youth level, it's a beautiful sport. It's a great scene-setting moment right now as we head into the future. And again, for the millionth time in this episode, look at soccer, look at lacrosse, and the development of those sports and the time it took, but also the payoff and the communities that have come out of that. But hey, I mean, let's face it, Tidewater Landing, having that Major League Rugby National Championship game June 28th, That's a huge win for Rhode Island.
Huge.
And is that televised? Is that game televised or somewhere?
Oh yeah, it will be. All the matches are televised, usually on NBC Sportsnet and ESPN Plus, depending on who's hosting, which the home team is, but they are televised.
Wow.
And as they get to the playoffs, they'll be televised even more.
So we're going to be on the spotlight. It's another way for Rhode Island to say, hey, wait a second, we're here, we're part of this. And on an athletic ecosystem level, if you're going to have a facility like Tidewater, and with the decline in relevance of college basketball over the coming years, hate to say it, the Friars, the Rams, and the NIL era, college basketball, it's not going to go away, but it's going to phase out in relevance. We need new things. Rugby may be one of the driving factors of that. Jeff Cares, thanks so much for your time today.
Hey, thanks so much, Bill. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for stopping by Bartholomew Town. For more content, follow me on Instagram @BillBartholomew.